Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Chill English channel. I'm Sophia.
And I'm Jake. It's great to have you here with us again.
Whether you're listening while relaxing at home, walking outside, or maybe practicing your English during a study session, we're really happy you joined us today.
Yes, we really are. Every time we record these conversations, we imagine people all around the world listening and learning with us.
That's one of my favorite things about this channel. It's like we're all sitting together in a calm, friendly conversation.
Exactly. No pressure, no stress, just a comfortable place to improve your English while thinking about life.
And today we're talking about a topic that might sound a little surprising at first.
Yes. Today's idea is something many people don't expect to hear.
The topic is this: sometimes you should stop telling everyone about your goals.
Right. That sentence might sound a little strange because many people believe the opposite.
That's true. A lot of advice online says you should share your goals with everyone.
People often say things like, if you tell people your goal, you will feel more responsible.
Or they say, if others know your goal, they will support you and motivate you.
And to be fair, sometimes that can be true.
Yes, sometimes sharing goals can help.
But today we're going to explore a different perspective.
Exactly, because sometimes talking too much about your goals can actually make it harder to achieve them.
It sounds a little strange, right?
It does, but once you understand the psychology behind it, it begins to make sense.
Definitely.
Let's start with a simple question.
All right.
Have you ever had a big goal that you were really excited about?
Oh yes, many times.
And did you ever feel the strong desire to tell everyone about it?
Absolutely. I think that's a very human experience.
I agree. When we start something new, we feel energy and excitement.
It's like a fresh beginning.
Exactly. We imagine the future and the person we want to become.
For example, someone might say, this year I'm going to get in amazing shape.
Or, I'm going to learn English fluently.
Or maybe I'm going to start my own business.
These goals feel exciting. They create a strong picture in our mind.
And when we imagine that future version of ourselves, we feel proud and motivated.
So naturally, we want to share that excitement.
Yes, we tell our friends.
We tell our family.
Sometimes we even post about it online.
Exactly. We say things like, this year I'm changing my life.
Or, big things are coming.
I've definitely seen posts like that.
Me too.
But here's the interesting part.
What's that?
Sometimes talking about the goal gives us a feeling of success before we actually do anything.
That's such an interesting psychological effect.
It really is.
I remember the first time I noticed this in my own life.
Oh, really? Tell us about it.
A few years ago, I decided I wanted to wake up earlier every day.
That's a very popular goal.
Yes, I wanted to become one of those early morning people.
The kind of person who wakes up at 5 a.m., drinks coffee, and starts the day with energy.
Exactly. I imagined myself reading books in the morning, exercising, and planning my day.
That sounds very productive.
It did sound productive, and I felt very motivated at the beginning.
So what did you do first?
Well, the first thing I did was talk about it.
Of course.
I told my friends, starting next week, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. every day.
Wow, that's a big change.
I also told my family.
Let me guess, they were impressed.
Very impressed. They said things like, that's amazing, Jake.
Positive reactions.
Exactly. And when they reacted that way, I felt proud.
Even though you hadn't actually started waking up early yet.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
It's like my brain received a reward just for talking about the goal.
That makes sense. Humans love recognition.
Yes, when people say positive things about us, it feels good.
Our brain releases dopamine.
The chemical connected to pleasure and motivation.
But here's the strange part.
What's that?
That reward can sometimes reduce our motivation to actually do the work.
Yes, that's exactly what happened to me.
Really?
Yes, I talked about my goals so much that I started to feel like I had already accomplished something.
Even though the real work hadn't started.
Right.
So what happened the next week?
Well, I woke up at 5 a.m. the first day.
That's impressive.
The second day was harder.
I can imagine.
And by the third day, I turned off my alarm and went back to sleep.
That sounds very familiar.
But the strange part was that I still felt proud for a while.
Because people already believed you were doing it.
Exactly.
That's such an interesting lesson.
It really is.
I actually had a similar experience with a completely different goal.
Oh, really?
Yes, a few years ago, I decided I wanted to improve my public speaking.
That's a great skill to develop.
I thought so too. I imagined myself speaking confidently in front of large audiences.
That sounds exciting.
It was exciting. I watched videos, read articles, and felt very inspired.
So what did you do?
I started telling people about my goal.
Of course.
I told my friends, I'm going to become a great public speaker.
And what did they say?
They said things like, wow, that suits you, or you would be great at that.
That must have felt encouraging.
It did. I felt confident and excited.
But did you practice speaking?
Not as much as I talked about it.
That's the key problem.
Exactly.
Talking about goals can sometimes replace the real work.
And we don't even notice it happening.
Right.
That's why today's topic is so important.
Because many people are full of dreams and plans.
But achieving goals requires consistent action.
Quiet action.
Yes, the kind of work that no one sees.
Early mornings.
Daily practice.
Small improvements.
Step-by-step progress.
And sometimes the best thing we can do is protect our goals while they are still growing.
Like protecting a small plant.
Exactly.
When a plant is very young, it needs time and care.
Too much attention too early can damage it.
And goals can be the same way. Sometimes they grow stronger in silence.
That's a beautiful idea. So in today's episode, we're going to explore this idea more deeply.
We'll talk about why telling everyone your goals might actually slow you down.
We'll discuss the psychology behind motivation.
And we'll also share some simple ways to stay focused on your goals without needing to announce them to the world.
I think this conversation will be really helpful for a lot of people.
I think so too.
Especially if you're someone who loves making plans and dreaming about the future.
Because dreams are wonderful.
But dreams become powerful only when we turn them into action.
Exactly.
So let's take a deeper look at why sometimes the best strategy is simple.
Talk less.
And do more. All right, so let's continue our conversation. Earlier, we talked about how sharing goals can sometimes create a false feeling of progress.
Yes, that feeling that you've already achieved something even though the real work hasn't started yet.
Exactly. And I think many people experience this without realizing it.
I agree. It's almost like our brain gets confused.
Confused?
Yes, because when we talk about our goals and people react positively, our brain interprets that reaction as success.
That's really interesting.
Imagine this situation. You tell your friends, I'm going to write a book this year.
That's a big goal.
It is, and your friends say, wow, that's amazing, or I can't wait to read it.
Those reactions feel really good.
Exactly. You feel proud, excited, and motivated in that moment.
But you haven't written a single page yet.
Right, but your brain already received a reward.
That's the tricky part.
Yes, our brain loves rewards. When it gets that feeling of satisfaction, it sometimes relaxes.
Almost like it says, great job, mission accomplished.
Even though the mission hasn't actually started.
That's such a fascinating idea.
It really is, and once you notice it, you start seeing it everywhere.
That's true. I've noticed this pattern with New Year's resolutions.
Oh yes, that's a perfect example.
Every year people say things like, this year I'm going to change my life.
They post about it on social media.
They talk about it with their friends.
They make big announcements.
But after a few weeks, many of those goals disappear.
Exactly.
I'm not saying this happens to everyone.
Of course not.
But it happens often enough that it's worth thinking about.
Definitely. And another interesting thing happens when we share goals with too many people.
What's that?
We start receiving many different opinions.
Oh yes, and opinions can be powerful.
Sometimes helpful, sometimes not.
Let's imagine someone decides they want to start a small business.
That's an exciting idea.
So they start telling everyone about it.
Some people might say, "That's amazing, go for it."
But others might say something different.
Like, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Or, "Starting a business is very risky."
Or, most businesses fail. Hearing comments like that can affect your confidence.
Especially if your idea is still new and fragile.
That's a good word, fragile.
Yes, in the beginning, goals are often delicate.
They're like small seeds.
Exactly. A seed needs the right environment to grow.
Too much criticism too early can stop that growth.
And sometimes people give negative advice without bad intentions.
That's very true.
They might just be worried about you.
Or they might be projecting their own fears.
Yes, that happens a lot.
If someone tried something before and failed, they might believe it's impossible.
And then they say things like, "That won't work."
But their experience doesn't necessarily define your future.
Exactly.
That's why being careful about who you share your goals with is important.
Very important. Instead of telling everyone, it might be better to choose one or two supportive people.
People who encourage action instead of just talking.
Yes, someone who might ask you helpful questions.
Like, what step are you working on this week? Or, how is your progress going?
That kind of support is very different from simple praise.
Definitely.
Because praise can feel nice, but it doesn't always push us forward.
While accountability can help us stay consistent.
Exactly.
I also think there's something powerful about working quietly.
I agree.
When you don't feel the need to announce everything, you can focus your energy on the process,
And the process is where real change happens.
not in the talking.
But in the daily effort.
You know, this reminds me of something I noticed when I started learning a new skill a few years ago.
What skill was that?
Photography.
Oh, that's a great hobby.
Yes, I really enjoyed learning it. But at the beginning, I made a conscious decision not to talk about it too much.
That's interesting. Why?
Because I wanted to focus on learning instead of explaining my plans.
That's a smart approach.
So instead of posting online or telling everyone, I simply practiced.
What did that look like?
I went outside early in the morning to take photos.
That sounds peaceful.
It was. Sometimes the streets were empty and the light was beautiful.
I can imagine that.
I would experiment with different angles, lighting, and compositions.
Did anyone know you were doing this?
Not really. It was mostly just for myself.
That must have felt very personal.
It did. And because I wasn't focused on other people's opinions, I felt free to learn slowly.
That's such an important point,
Many beginners quit because they feel judged.
especially if they share their work too early.
Exactly. But when you practice quietly, you give yourself permission to be a beginner.
And being a beginner is a necessary part of learning anything.
Absolutely.
I think this idea also connects to patience.
How so?
Well, when we talk about goals publicly, we often expect quick results.
That's true.
Because people might ask us, "So, how's it going?"
And if we don't have visible progress, we might feel embarrassed.
Exactly.
But when a goal is more private, we can take our time.
We can move at our own pace.
Slow progress becomes acceptable.
And slow progress is often the most sustainable progress.
That's such a good point.
Real growth usually happens gradually,
Small improvements every day.
one step after another.
And over time, those small steps create something impressive.
The funny thing is, people might suddenly notice your improvement.
Yes.
And they might say, "Wow, when did you get so good at this?"
And you might smile because you know the answer.
Years of quiet work.
Exactly.
No big announcements.
No dramatic speeches.
Just consistent effort.
Day after day.
And I think that's a beautiful way to grow.
I agree.
In the next part of our conversation, I'd love to talk about how listeners can apply this idea in their own lives.
That's a great idea.
Because understanding the concept is one thing.
But applying it is where the real transformation happens.
Exactly. Let's explore that next.
All right, let's move into the final part of today's conversation.
Yes, this is the moment where we try to bring everything together.
We talked about why sharing your goals with everyone can sometimes reduce motivation.
And we talked about how quiet progress can actually be more powerful.
Exactly. But now I think an important question for our listeners is this: how can we apply this idea in real life?
That's the key question.
Because understanding something is one thing, but changing habits is another.
Very true.
So maybe we can start with a simple idea.
I like simple ideas.
Instead of announcing your goals, start focusing on your next small action.
That's a really practical approach.
For example, imagine someone wants to improve their English.
That's perfect for many of our listeners here on the Chill English channel.
Exactly. Instead of telling everyone, I'm going to become fluent this year, they could focus on small daily habits.
Like listening to English podcasts,
Or reading a few pages of an English book every day.
or practicing speaking for 10 minutes.
These actions may seem small,
But small actions repeated every day can create huge results.
and the beautiful thing is that you don't need to tell anyone about it.
You can simply do it quietly.
One day of practice,
Then another day.
then another.
Then another, and slowly something amazing happens.
Improvement.
Real improvement.
Not the kind you talk about, but the kind people eventually notice.
I love that idea.
Me too.
Another practical idea is keeping a personal progress journal.
That's a great suggestion.
Instead of sharing your progress with everyone, you record it for yourself.
You can write things like what you practiced today,
What you learned,
what felt difficult.
and what improved.
Over time, that journal becomes a record of your journey.
And when you look back, you can see how far you've come.
That can be incredibly motivating,
Yes, because the motivation comes from your own progress.
not from other people's reactions.
Exactly.
I think another helpful mindset is remembering that goals are personal.
That's important.
You don't need approval from everyone around you.
Your goals belong to you,
Your effort belongs to you.
and your growth belongs to you,
Sometimes we forget that.
especially in the age of social media.
Yes, today many people feel pressure to share everything.
Their plans, their routines, their goals.
But not everything needs to be public.
Some things are more powerful when they stay private,
Private effort can create strong discipline.
because you're not doing it for attention.
You're doing it because it matters to you.
That kind of motivation is very strong.
Much stronger than temporary excitement.
Exactly.
And another interesting thing happens when you focus quietly on your goals.
What's that?
Your confidence grows naturally.
That's true.
Instead of saying, I hope I can do this, you start seeing real proof.
Proof from your own actions.
Yes,
For example, if someone practices English every day for 6 months, something amazing happens.
their listening improves.
Their vocabulary grows.
Their confidence increases.
And suddenly, conversations feel easier.
At that point, they don't need to say, I'm learning English.
People can hear it.
Exactly.
Their improvement speaks for itself.
That reminds me of a simple quote I once heard.
What quote?
Work in silence and let success make the noise.
I love that quote.
Me too.
It's short, but it carries a lot of wisdom.
Because success naturally attracts attention.
You don't have to force it.
When results appear, people notice.
And those results feel even more satisfying because you know the quiet work behind them.
The early mornings.
The practice sessions.
The moments when motivation was low, but you continued anyway.
Those moments are where real growth happens.
Absolutely.
Before we finish today's episode, maybe we can leave our listeners with a small reflection.
I love that idea.
Think about one goal you care about right now.
It could be learning a skill,
Improving your health.
growing your confidence.
Or maybe continuing your English learning journey.
Now ask yourself a simple question.
Am I spending more time talking about this goal or working on it?
That question can reveal a lot.
If you notice you're talking more than doing, that's okay.
It's a very common habit.
But starting today, you can try something new
Talk a little less.
and act a little more.
Focus on the next small step.
Then the next one.
And slowly, quietly, your progress will grow.
Like a plant that becomes stronger every day.
Exactly.
One day you'll look back and realize how far you've come.
And that's a beautiful feeling.
All right. I think this is the perfect moment to end today's conversation.
Yes, it feels like a calm and thoughtful ending.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us here on the Chill English channel.
We really appreciate you listening and learning with us.
Keep practicing your English.
Keep growing step by step.
And remember, sometimes the best progress happens quietly.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.